Hello and welcome to episode 107 of Riding in the Weeds. We are so grateful that you are joining us today. We're going to continue on with our conversation that we were having last week about the nervous system and digging into the fact that the nervous system is super important. In my description from the last episode, I was thinking about the fact that my computer hasn't been working properly. And the reason it hasn't been working properly is because I wasn't able to update it. And the nervous system is kind of the same thing, right? If you are running an old, outdated program in your nervous system, you are not going to be able to keep up with the demands of the daily changing. Nothing is the same as it was 100 years ago, but honestly, nothing's the same that it was last year. You might be tempted to just be like, oh, another conversation about the nervous system. All I hear about is the nervous system. The reason why you keep hearing about it is because we are realizing that our programming needs to stay updated. You think about a computer, if you've got a PC, you got to defrag the system because it gets all cluttered and your emotions are the same. They're just like old files that you haven't moved through. And unless you have a way of moving that stuff through and jostling and moving it around, it's going to get stuck. So today we're going to talk about physical movement and different ways that you can move and why it's important, and throw in some tools and some tips about how physical movement can help change and defrag that nervous system so that you're able to take on more, so that you keep on being able to update. So let's dive in and talk a little bit more about that. And you're here with your hosts, same hosts every week. I am Natasha Lockie, and I am a business builder. I am here to help you figure out how to get out of the weeds with your business, with your ideas, with yourself, with your mountain biking. How can you move through the weeds, which is generally yourself, and actually do the goals that you're wanting to do, whether it's booking clients, building a website, getting your online course out there, or you've got dreams that you want to make happen and you just can't get past yourself. That's what I'm here to help. Jenny?
Yeah, I'm Jenny Brannon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are struggling with behavior challenges or emotional challenges with your pets, or have a lot going on in life and want some support for you and your pet around that, reach out to me and we can set something up to get you guys back to harmony again.
Amazing. So movement. Jenny, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so after we recorded the last episode together, I was thinking about the process of working through things with the nervous system and the fact that you do have to respect it. And sometimes we get pushed a little bit too hard by life, circumstances outside of our control, and it really can trigger our nervous system into some shaky ground where we start resorting to the sympathetic side of the nervous system, the fight, flight side, where we are reacting to something rather than being able to respond and choose our actions. And when that happens, I think that one of the pieces that has helped me the most is movement. And this is something that Laura Michelle has taught before in some of the work that she's done. But our animals are also another really great teacher when it comes to this. If you've ever noticed, after something big and crazy happens, what does your dog do? He shakes, right? He shakes his entire body from nose all the way through to tail. That is an emotional release. That is a neurological release. That's kind of shaking off all of the energy that has just happened in whatever it was. And if you really pay attention to your pet, you'll notice when they do that is often right after something sort of big happens. And yes, it can also be at different times. They shake water off of themselves as well, but frequently you'll notice that it happens when there's an emotional situation going on or something energetically that's big. And so I just wanted to start out this conversation with a little bit of a reminder to use that tool, number one, because it's helpful. But the second piece of that is the more movement we can incorporate into our life and our routine, the easier it is to not need to go to those extremes, because the movement on a regular basis will help keep our nervous system more on the level. So even if you're not doing an extreme kind of shaking off, that any movement is still helping to move the energy through the body and to process whatever's happening. And the cool part is you don't even have to know. You don't have to worry about it. Like, movement helps move energy. And that's all you need to worry about, because it's going to move whatever needs to move and whatever's ready to go. And this is why I'm actually really happy going back to the gym, because it's incorporating more movement into my life. I've been really happy just focusing on how can I add more into my day in little spots. We've just decided that we're going to attempt, it's going to depend on the schedule a little bit, but the days we don't go to the gym, we're going to attempt to walk in our street. It's almost a mile, the whole thing. And it's very quiet back here, so we're going to attempt to start walking more consistently when we're not at the gym to help add more movement into our day, because it helps make everything so much better. And it's one of those fun things that you can incorporate it in any way. So it doesn't have to be stressful. It helps reduce stress. It has so many benefits that just start showing up across the board. That's fun. What's not fun about incorporating movement in different ways into your life? It gets to be fun.
That's so very true. There are so many scientific benefits to just going for a walk. If you're feeling in a funk, just going out for a walk, no destination, just going for an amble is huge. And it physiologically, mentally, it changes everything. And when I was unable to do my workouts and really do much of anything, I was walking. Me and the dog were walking. And we talked about this many moons ago, but just that power of that walking. And it is such an underrated exercise, but it actually has so many more benefits than going for a run or so many other things that you can do. It's like, walk it off. There's a reason for that, right? And it's like you're mountain biking and you have a crash. Walk it off. Shake it off. We say these things, and yet we're not realizing that that's actually what we physically need to do. We need to move that energy. And then if you can start to incorporate other things in there, if you think about it, yoga, it's stretching. But how do you turn stretching into yoga? It's by being aware of the breath. And when you're aware of the breath and you're aware of each movement going with the breath, it becomes a meditation. It becomes yoga. And Qigong is literally about moving the chi through your body. And all of these little things, it's like, oh, this is why I feel better. It might not necessarily be you're going to the gym and getting fitter. Like, yes, that is a great advantage to it. But it's actually the doing that is changing the thing. And I saw something recently and it was like, if you're doing yoga for your workout, you're not doing yoga. Yes, if you do yoga, you will get stronger. You will have all of these physical benefits. But yoga in itself is just a practice of moving with your breath. And we do that for the mental. We do that for the inner. We do it for the outer. And then we start to see the benefits. It's fascinating how these comments that we have, like shake it off, walk it off, they're there because it moves the chi, it moves the energy, it allows us to move through something. And the final thing I'll say on this is I recently was watching a reel that was talking about how emotions are only supposed to live in our body for 90 seconds. And what happens is that we make them mean something. And so if you can be with the emotion that you're having for 90 seconds and just really feel it without making it mean anything, then you will enable it to move out of the body by just breathing into it, by going for a walk and walking with it. You pair those two things together and you will find the energy just lifts out of you. And you're not thinking about that thing that made you upset because of whatever it made you upset, because you don't need to. You've enabled it to move through, and you add actual physical movement to that. And now you're able to cope with a lot of things. Anxiety starts to go down. Stress starts to go down. Burnout goes down.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a simple thing that is so overlooked in our culture and our society. We don't reach for that as an option. I feel like if everybody put just a little bit of effort, a little bit of focus on this, it would dramatically change how things are for everyone across the board. It would have a huge ripple effect because everyone would be processing and moving that energy more effectively. And I think where we get caught up is we have these fantastic big old brains up here that tell us a story about things. And that's one of the differences between us as humans and the animals around us, is that they're not invested in a story. They don't care. So just because one dog snapped at them yesterday, they're not writing a story about what it meant and about how it means they're a bad dog and all of this stuff. The next day, so what? It happened. And they may be wary of that place or location or other animal, but they're not telling a story about it. And the horses are very much the same way. A horse may defend their space because they don't want another horse closer to them, but the next day, they're cool. There's no story after the event, and we tend to hold on to the story, which traps everything in our system somewhere. All emotions are basically information. It's information for us, and simply because we are experiencing an emotion doesn't mean we have to act on it, and it doesn't mean anything about us. We can experience shame or experience anger, and it doesn't change our value or worth as a human, as who we are. And just because we are feeling those things, again, it doesn't change us inherently. And so it's important to just go, I'm being visited by anger, or I'm being visited by shame right now. If we can reframe it that way, that helps to take it and make it a little less personal internally, so that we have a better chance of moving it along. And then when you incorporate the movement piece, now it's free to go after that. It's free to be released again because it's not being held onto by a story that you're frantically writing in your system that's going to be trapped.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As you were talking, I was just thinking about how I have my day sitting at work and I'm dealing with a lot of people. There's nothing negative about anything I deal with, but it's a lot of interaction energy that goes on. And then I get home, I walk down the hill to my camper, and I just want to sit and do nothing. And it's because I've been sitting in the stagnant energy, and then instead of moving, if I was to just go for a walk or just walk it off, all of the energetics of all of the people that I've dealt with all day will release and will move on. But otherwise, if not, you're holding on to pieces of other people's stuff, which we don't even realize how much that sticks to us as well. And it's so interesting because I always wonder, I'm like, I've just been doing nothing all day and I want to go home and do more of nothing. Like, why?
Well, and I'll even go further then. What is the common thing to do when you get home at that point?
Well,
doom scroll.
Right, or sit down and watch
What are
TV.
we doing? Yeah, TV, same thing. What are we doing at that point? Now we're interacting with more fragments and bits of energy from other people again. So our systems are getting completely inundated all day long with it. Yeah. So maybe instead of just sitting in the office all day, maybe at your lunch break, or maybe every couple hours even, you get up, you walk around outside for a minute or two, and then come back in and keep working. Or you get up and stretch in the room a little bit, so it's raining. Okay, so you stretch and do some movement inside. There's a lot of little things you can wiggle around and do. And then maybe on your way to your camper, you take the long route and walk through parts of the campground or whatever to give you that decompression time and that movement time.
Can't do that
together.
You got to get the dog because normally he's a little bit bored as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I try and not sit on my seat and stand up, and I go outside into the sunshine. And yesterday I went and picked some blackberries, and I walk down to the camper and have lunch, and then I'll clean the camper or whatever. All of those things, 100%, right? And it's being aware, like getting down and doing a squat, having a timer that's like, okay, do a 5-minute squat, just little things. And I've been meaning, and I haven't done it, but I've been meaning to do 5 minutes of Qigong while I'm at work. And I'm not designed for this. I don't sit in offices all day. And it's funny because as soon as I try and do something, like I called a friend yesterday, the moment I called her, 5 people walked in the door.
Yes.
I want to do like my journaling, but I'm like, oh, but I need 5 minutes to journal, and guaranteed if I open this book and start journaling, it even happened yesterday morning before I started work, right? I started my journaling. And this morning I start my yoga, and this guy comes up. I'm outside on the deck. Like, I could be anybody. And he comes around, and my favorite thing is when people look at you and they're like, oh, I can see, like they literally say, I can see that you are stretching. But
I'm going to interrupt you anyway.
But I'm going to interrupt you anyway. And it's like, okay, breathe through it. It's incredible. I can see that you're in the middle of doing something. I'm sitting there.
Did you just hear yourself?
Yes,
I am, in fact. Thanks for noticing. I'll get back to you.
I'm sitting on a yoga mat with my journal, and I'm writing. And the lady's like, yeah, so when are the toilets going to be restocked with toilet paper? I'm like, really? Like, really? And I get it, but I think it's so funny. And it's opportunities to be like, meh, okay. I bring it up because that is how people interact with us the whole time.
Yeah.
I see you, but I'm more important.
Yeah.
And that's fine, except for we need to protect our energy, right? So it's like, it doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay, cool. You're in your space, I'm in my space. It's fine. I will manage that, and then I will move on. I was literally in the middle of a yin yoga, like pretzeled upside down at 9 o'clock at night. I wasn't even working. And this guy comes around and he starts talking to me and asking me. I was like, honestly, go find the person that's actually working. But like, I'm upside down, arm through here and feet in the other direction. And it was fascinating to me that we constantly put our needs ahead of other people. So we need to know that as human beings, that's how we operate with each other. Therefore, we need to find ways to manage that and create space for ourselves. Because if we don't, no one else is going to. People will totally
walk right over you.
Walk right over you. And I was thinking about that as far as wanting to be liked and wanting to be respected. And people don't remember you for the things you do. They remember you for the way you make them feel. I was like, yeah, except for if your whole goal is to make other people feel good, then you are programming them to think that your entire goal is to make them feel good. So when you stand up for yourself, when you actually ask for your needs, you're going to ruffle feathers. You're going to upset people because you've trained them to think that you are there to, for lack of a better word, serve them. And we really need to make sure we're serving ourselves first, that we're dealing with our energy first, that if you're getting home from work and everybody needs something from you, it's okay to be like, you know what, guys, I totally get it, but I need to go and do some quick stretches. I need to go for a walk around the block. I need to take 5 minutes for myself to move the energy of my day through so that I can be fully present for you. And these are things that have become completely lost in our society because we want people to like us. We want people to need us. We want all of this stuff. But what we don't realize is when we do that, we get lost.
Yeah. Well, and this is a little bit tangential, but it's not really, because it also still does deal with our nervous system. Because here's the issue is that if you're allowing people to need you at all moments of the day, and not having any kind of boundaries, then your nervous system is eventually going to get fried. Now, children are a little bit of a different conversation because obviously there are times when they need things immediately and you don't necessarily have a choice. And so, therefore, you need to be reaching for other tools every opportunity you have so that you have the capacity to serve. But the bigger piece of that is that, yeah, I think it's a little bit of our technologically connected culture that everything is instantaneous now. And so people think that they're entitled to access to other human beings instantaneously, particularly when they're in service roles. And at the same time, this is also a little bit of an internal boundary. And it's funny because the comments come up when I work with someone with the horses, and especially in the beginning, if they've never worked with horses before, we'll spend time on the ground, right? And we'll just spend time hanging out and being and talking a lot about what they're doing and how we're interacting and everything. And inevitably, what I'll see is the horses will come over and they'll start interacting with this person. But what I'm seeing is that the horses are actually moving this person. There'll be nudges and bumps that cause the person, nothing aggressive or nothing that would be dangerous, but the person is continually responding to the horse's pressure. Yeah. And what's funny is a few minutes later, the comment will be, my kids treat me like this, right? Or my dog behaves like this. And it's because that person doesn't have internal boundary of being able to be in a space and not allow another being, this is not even about humans at this point, another being to infringe upon it without consent, without official permission. Yeah. And I see this with dogs, I see this with cats, I see this with horses. There are a lot of people out there that, while my animal loves me, yes, however, it's not just about love at that point. Yeah. It's about who is in control of the space. And when you aren't in control of your own boundaries, when you're managing your own boundaries, then that happens. And then your nervous system just gets mowed down because you're not protecting your own nervous system and space in that process.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the concept, is that if we don't have those boundaries, then the excuse is, well, I don't have time, or I can't do that because XYZ. And it is boundaries. It is creating space for us to do whatever it is that we need to do, and be in the space that we need to be in, and be like, hold on, not yet. When we're ready, we can do that. And when we can create that little buffer around ourselves and know that people, well, you know what, people will think and people will do and people will be whatever they are, but we can't actually control that, right? So we need to just be constantly pushing out just enough to give us that space. And as you say, otherwise people are going to nudge you. The horses, the dogs, there's going to be a constant disrespect of your bubble. And unless we can just push it out just a little bit, we will not be able to find the space to move. And then we forget to move when we do have the time to do it, right? So figuring out ways to just, make that space around us, I think, is so very important.
It's important that we learn how to hold that space for ourselves, because that helps protect our nervous system. And then we don't have to go to the extremes of shaking things off constantly. And when we're incorporating regular, consistent movement into our practice, our routine, our life, then that's just going to keep things balanced overall. And that's really the goal, right? Is we're always working our way back towards balance. Balance is dynamic. It's not static. We've talked about that before. And so it's always a process of continually working through things so that you can have a better equilibrium overall. And I think that's really the end goal here. But without the awareness of the nervous system and honoring our nervous system when we have a trigger from something, it doesn't even have to be anything we understand why, But if we don't honor that and then work through, take the steps that are appropriate to work through it at that time, then it just sort of piles up and piles up and piles up. And we end up completely fried and burnt out and overreacting to situations that don't warrant a massive reaction. We're snapping at our loved ones. We're being short with everyone else. And it's just not good. So I think the whole goal here is just to talk about some little ways that we can work on managing things so we don't have to get to that extreme. So we have a better balanced day to day overall, and then work through whatever comes up as it comes up. Because we all have stuff from the past. We've all got baggage. And if you release it as it comes, then it makes life a lot easier in the long run.
Yeah. Two things come to mind. One is going back to my computer analogy. If you delete your downloads from the downloads folder at the end of the day, then you know what they were there for. They're not important and you can delete them. Whereas if you leave them for a week or a month or a year, you're like, what was that? You're right? Exactly. So if you can delete things as you go, then they don't build up. And then it's the same thing like when it comes to mountain biking. If you do a gnarly piece of trail and you fry yourself completely and you get to the bottom and you're kind of like, whoa, that was pretty gnarly. And then you're like, okay, I can do the next piece. But if you don't take that moment, then that builds and then the next bit builds and the next bit until you're like, whoa, and your head wants to explode, right? There were certain trails where you'd get through a section and then you would stop and the bike would go down and you'd be like, oh my God, I made it. And as I got better, that pause in that spot got shorter, and then eventually I could just ride right through it because I wasn't as fried, because I was better and I was able to manage things better, which means that I was able to move through it. And that's what happens as we...
Yeah.
We got my husband in the background here. But as we move through things, then we're able to move through things more. And
that's the whole point.
That's the whole point. We won't need these tools if we're managing things as we go along. And just a case in point, if Jenny and I were a little bit better on time, we would not be managing the fact that there's noise coming in and out right now of my space. So I apologize for the little blip in the recording there, folks.
Yeah. No, and I think that's it. That's the whole thing, is that what all of this does is expand your capacity.
Yes.
And that's the key, is that as you practice things, as you incorporate regular movement into your routine, as you practice stopping, shaking it off, doing whatever you need to do to help your nervous system move through the big energy of the moment, as you do that, your nervous system expands capacity. Our nervous systems have the capacity to expand.
Totally.
But if we don't honor them and stop when we get all those red flags and all those warning bells, that's when we end up in a pile of goo, because we can't keep going anymore because we have ignored all the signs. And eventually our body's like, okay, shut down, like, I'll stop. And we don't want to hit that point, right? That is riding straight into the weeds and laying in them at that point. And the point is to be able to ride in and ride back out. So practicing that expansion over and over and over again will eventually get you to the point where one day you're going to look and you're like, dang, there was a time I couldn't do that section of trail altogether. Or there was a time where I wouldn't have been able to manage the horse's behavior the way they are today at all. And now it's no big deal, whatever, you know? And so it's just a growth process over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we can grow over time, then you don't hit the wall. And it's exactly the same with mountain biking. If you go too far, too fast, too quick, you crash, and then it takes time to come back from that crash, mentally and physically, right? If you do it slowly, if you progress slowly, you won't have the big crash. You'll have little crashes, and they just remind you to get back on the bike, to use your tools, to expand your capacity, and you won't need to do all the things to come back. You don't need rehab. It's taken me 3 years, both from a physical crash, because I just wasn't paying attention, and from a mental crash because I just wasn't paying attention. And
right.
And it's like those two things. Yeah, I crashed on my bike, and yeah, I crashed in my life, and it's taken, like, we're going on 3.5 years here of me being able to get back to exercising properly. I've still got issues with my knee. I'm having to do it so slowly, and it's painful. And if we don't get ourselves to the point where we take that big crash, then we can grow and expand nice and slowly. And,
Yeah.
on that as well, my business blew up so quick. And I didn't have the capacity for it. And that's what eventually ended up to the crash. Because I didn't recognize what was going on until it had gone too far. And the same thing happens on the bikes. We're just like,
Yeah.
oh, how did I end up on a double black diamond trail when I'm maybe a blue? Like, oops.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is the last kind of piece of this is that if you're used to doing it that way, because you don't know any other way, and that's the way our culture likes to do things.
Yep.
And you start respecting your nervous system and respecting those limits.
Yep.
The challenge can be that from the outside, it looks like you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
I see this with the horse work that I do. I've talked about it with Kirsten before. People see the work we do with the horses, which is extremely respectful of these kinds of things. And they're like, what is she doing? Like, all she does is walk. All she does is ride in a circle. But they don't understand the nuance of what's going on underneath that. And so, sometimes you're going to have to set hard boundaries because your friends are going to be like, come on, you've been doing that same thing forever. Why don't you just go do this? But when you know internally what you're working on, you can be like, no, I'm not going to sacrifice all of the work I've put into this to blow it because somebody else thinks I should be doing something differently. Totally. And so it comes to a point where you have to be okay looking slow, for lack of a better word, because a lot of other people in the world will think you're not doing anything. And the reality is inside, there's a lot going on, and you have to know that and be okay with it. And at this point, I'm okay with not doing a lot of things. This is true in more than just the horse work that I do, because a lot of people think I should, why don't you just reach out to 10 clients a day? Like, woo, nervous system says, hard nope, we can't handle that yet. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at that point.
It's so very, very true. And mine's not the rest of the world. It's the Instagram reels. And then it's me being like, well, no, we could get up at 6:30 and we could do our workout. I'm like, no, I'm on my period. Today's workout should be yoga. And it doesn't feel like you're doing anything. But halfway through the yoga class, when you're wanting to sit down and go into child's pose, I would argue that maybe you are doing something. It's tough because you feel like you're not. You feel like you need to move faster to get to your goals quicker. But I keep reminding myself on my fitness journey right now that it's a 6 months to a year process. And I'm starting to see huge changes. But I really started this at the end of January. So let's talk about this at the end of January. And if at that point things aren't working, then we start to make other changes. Little steps along the way. And that will expand our capacity. And I think really that's all we need to say. And just keep moving. Move your body. Go for walks. Make space for you. And if you make space for you, then there'll be space for you. So with that, we're going to wrap her up for today. Thank you so much for joining us for number 107. And I hope this is helpful for you. Let us know in the comments. Let us know what kind of tools you use. If you've got something that you think would really help other people, let us know. We would love for you to share that with the crew. I am Natasha Lucky. I am a business builder. My whole philosophy in life has always been to help people not stay out of the weeds, but really recognize the weeds and find tools and ways to get through them. So you can find me at Betty Gohard, Natasha Lucky on Instagram, and Natasha Lucky on Facebook, and also on LinkedIn. And come on into Substack. Join our Wins chat. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, and I am Jenny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. So if you're struggling with any of this type of stuff with your pet, please do reach out. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com and on Substack, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same handle. So we thank you so much for hanging on through this ride through the weeds with us today. We appreciate your likes and comments and shares as well. And we would love to hear from you. Drop us a message if you would like to chat with either one of us. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.